welcome to another fun edition of Riding with Rob. So, today, I actually had a request for a video, and I thought, awesome, cool, I will do what was requested of me. It's not very often I get a video request, but if you have one, put one in the comment section below. I'll help you out. Alright, so for today's video, I was asked about buying used cars. Maybe some tips or tricks or things to look at when buying a used car. Now there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of used cars out there, and you're like, where do I even start? Well, like, I have no idea what kind of car I want to get. I'm 16 years old and I need a car. Requirements for a 16-year-old's car: 4 tires, an engine, and that it goes. I mean, that's really what it boils down to for any first-time driver. Just something that, well, drives. So, I think my first suggestion would be go with a brand that you know to be known for reliability. And there's a few brands out there that are known that no matter what, they will run and they will continue to run. Honda, Toyota, buy those first, okay? If you don't know what to get, okay, Toyota Corolla, Honda Civic. You cannot go wrong with Toyota Corolla or Honda Civic. There are hundreds of them out, and there's hundreds of them available. They're known to be reliable. They're known to get good gas mileage, and they're known to be very cheap to fix because there are so many of them out there. That's another thing you want to look for when you're buying your first car, especially if you're buying a used car. You're going to want to buy something that there's a lot of out there, because the more of them that were produced, therefore there's more parts for the cars, and therefore the parts for them are going to be cheaper. So you will have to put in less money into these types of cars than any other type of car when doing the same amount of work. Take, for instance, my Honda Civic versus my wife's Mitsubishi Eclipse. The radiator that I put in this costs between $120 and $150, depending on where you buy from and if you have time to really search for a good deal. And you know what? That's not bad for a radiator. It's really not. However, for the Honda Civic, not looking around for the cheapest one, I just went to buy one, $50. Basically a third of the price of this radiator. So that's what you want to look for, something that is known for reliability and that there's a lot of, okay? Because let's face it, when you're buying a used car instead of a car payment, there will be things you have to fix. Why? Because there's a lot of miles on that car, maybe. It's used. Somebody may have beaten the crap out of it, been flooring it all around town, and never given it, proper maintenance or things like that. So, you want to know something that's known for reliability, and that's known to be, there's a lot of them out there. You see them everywhere. You see them all the time. I will not recommend that you buy a GM car. However, if you are a first-time driver, there is one car. Whoa! That's fun, isn't it? Apparently the duct tape melted on my super awesome mount here. And, it's ruined my video. Taking Eclipse-style turns is, not necessarily the best thing for it. So yes, duct tape does fail in extreme heat. Duly noted. Okay, so what's another tip I can give you for when looking at a used car? Well, plain and simple, look under the hood. Even if you know nothing about cars, don't know what an engine even looks like, pop the hood and look for one thing in particular: cleanliness. I mean, it seems pretty simple, right? Look for how clean it is under the hood. Listen, if something's extremely dirty under the hood, you're probably looking at oil leaks and other types of fluid leaks, and the car's probably going to give you problems. It's a good indication that this car hasn't been well maintained. Whoever has maintained it doesn't really truly care, because obviously they didn't take the time to clean under this hood. Plain and simple. So the cleaner it is, the better. Now, be cautious and be wary of cars that have an extremely clean engine bay, okay? If you're looking at a Honda Civic with 100,000 miles and the engine bay looks brand fucking new, there's two things. Number one, someone could have taken extremely good care of this car, okay? It's very clean under the hood. And you know what? It's not necessarily a really bad thing. I mean, we want it to be clean, because then you can also identify any kind of leaks that the engine's having later on. But now, be wary about something that's way too clean. Obviously, a car with 100,000 miles on it shouldn't have a perfectly clean engine bay. Usually this means that someone parked it, cleaned out the engine bay completely, just to make you look at it and go, ooh, it's clean, okay, we're good to go. So you want it to be a little bit dirty, okay? A little bit of dirt is a sign that the car was actually driven recently, that the car was actually in use, that someone didn't just buy it and is now trying to sell it regardless of whatever problems it may be having. Okay. Another thing to check for when buying a used car, and this seems kind of pretty obvious, but you know, there's not a lot of people out there that know everything about cars. See how well that engine is running. Start it up. Never, ever, ever, ever buy a car without driving it first, okay? And if you're not driving, make sure somebody else has driven it that you trust with your life, okay? Always, always, always drive a car. So start up the engine. Okay, when the engine's cold, it should have a higher idle. When the engine warms up, the idle should be much lower. Okay, if it has a rough idle, if it sounds funny idling, don't buy that car. That's a sign that there's potentially a problem going on, or that potentially the car hasn't had its regular oil maintenance, or hasn't been maintained at all. If the idle is weird. If it has a pulsating idle, do not buy that car, okay? Something is wrong. The engine idle, if it's cold, should be a little bit high, you know? And what I mean by a little bit high, look at the RPM gauge, and you want to look for, I don't know, about 1,500 RPMs on a very cold engine, okay? On a warm engine, something that, you know, maybe you've driven around the block already, and now you're parked again, you want to see the idle below 1,000 RPMs. Usually between 500 and 750 RPMs is a good range for a normally idling car. If the car has any kind of stutter or makes any kind of clicking, or probably not a good idea to buy that car, okay? Now, some cars are a little bit noisier than other cars as far as an idle. What you're looking for is something that's running very smooth. The engine's not rocking back and forth. Now, when you drive the car, for most of you, you're going to be buying automatics because you're lame and boring and you buy automatic cars. When you put it in gear, just wait a second. Don't just throw it in gear and let your foot off the brake. Keep your foot on the brake, put it into drive, or up here maybe, but on the Eclipse it's right here, so that's why I'm doing that. Put it into drive, keep your foot on the brake, and feel it go into gear. If it goes clunk, okay, that's bad transmission, don't buy that car, okay? If you put it into gear and it goes, that's fine, that's normal. You're going to get that little like, oh, okay, I'm in gear. That's pretty normal. That's not anything to worry about. If you put it into gear and you don't feel anything, you know, that's fine too, but be cautious, okay? Look, here's a quick little, number one thing, always keep in the back of your head. Any car that seems too good to be true is, okay? It's not maybe it is, it is. It is way too good to be true. That it is then, okay? If you're looking at a car with 100,000 miles, it's got a perfect engine bay, it runs perfect, everything seems absolutely perfect, the guy wants a ridiculously low price for it, don't buy that car. There is something wrong that will rear its ugly head later on, okay? Now, if it's a perfect car, if everything's running perfect, and they're asking a decent price for it, they want, you know, a decent amount of money for it, even though it's older and has a lot of miles on it, that's probably a good car to buy, okay? But don't always go off of pricing. You want a nice, steady range of all of these things, okay? A few things to stay away from. Stay away from any car that has been modified in any way. Seriously, don't buy a modified car, okay? Unless you're buying this car and your purpose is you want to build it, or you want to add to it, or you want a really fast car, okay, and you want to buy something that's modified, that's fine, but be prepared for there to be problems, okay? Why is somebody going to spend the extra money to modify a car and then sell it at a cheaper price? Think about it, okay? There's probably something wrong that they're not going to tell you about, and that you're going to find out later on, okay? Another thing to look for when you have the engine pop and you're looking at how clean is this engine, you know, and that sort of thing, you want to look for wires, okay? All the wires should be connected. You should see no electrical tape, okay? You shouldn't see any broken wires. You don't want to see anything that's unplugged, okay? If something's unplugged, ask that person, why is this connector unplugged? What does it go to? Why is it okay for it to be unplugged? If they have a simple explanation for it, it's probably okay. If they give you like a, well, I don't know, it's supposed to be, that's the way it came, that's probably a good sign that they're lying to you. Okay, don't buy that car. Don't buy that car. Okay, wiring, so for whatever reason, people like to go in and mess with the wiring. But, and you don't want that, because if you have a wiring issue, that can take months and months for even an experienced mechanic to hunt down, okay? Trust me, I've done it. It's not fun. Turn on my little cruise control here. Things to cars that you would completely stay away from. I would recommend completely staying away from. Any kind of sports car that's been modified. Because if it's been modified, obviously somebody has been driving it. Okay? And not just, I'm going to the grocery store and back. No, they've been pedal to metal. Let's see how fast we can go. Let's race from the stoplight, neutral drop it. Okay, these are not good signs, alright? Now, it's not to say all modified cars are bad, but be very, very cautious when buying a modified car. Usually suspension modifications are going to be your biggest problem, okay? Unless somebody bought, $1,200 coilover, suspension for the car, if they just put coil springs on it, or, they bought, I don't know, the eBay coilover setup, it's a no-name brand, probably not a good idea to buy that car, okay? Suspension problems can be a huge and major issue. The car can wobble or pull to one side, and it can cost you a lot of money. Suspension is expensive. It's just the way it is, okay? Engine modifications you're not entirely worried about, but be wary that somebody did drive that car as, a sports car, okay? They modified it, so obviously, they weren't necessarily babying that car. But other things to stay away from, I would say, be cars that you don't really know a lot about, okay? If you pull up to somebody and they've got, a Mercury Capri, and you've never heard of a Mercury Capri, probably don't buy that car, okay? It's not a good idea. Good cars to buy are cars that, there's a lot of out there. Like I mentioned before, the Cavalier, and I'm not, like I said, I wouldn't recommend buying a GM because GM for a long period of time said, we build cars to last for 3 years. That's not the kind of car you want to buy, okay? I've seen people come in with 2-year-old Chevy Aveos that need all new suspension and it costs more than what the car did, okay? Alright? Not a good idea. But like the Cavalier, they had the Cavalier and the Pontiac Sunfire, and Saab made a version of the Cavalier, and Cadillac made a version of the Cavalier. There's a lot of them out there, okay? Cavalier engines that were originally made by Toyota, so, they're decently reliable. Sorry, my duct tape got all hot and, melted. It's all, nasty. So to avoid the camera phone, I'm moving around a little more. Yeah, those are definitely some things you want to stay away from. Cars there's not a lot of, such as the Chevy Impala, okay? There's not that many Chevy Impalas out there, alright? And they're known for only lasting around 60 to 100K. Not a car you want to buy. If you're looking at, here's one that's really popular, okay? And one that I really like is a Mitsubishi Eclipse from 1995 to 1999. These are really popular cars. Why? Because they can all-wheel drive turbo. Paul Walker drove one in Fast and Furious. They can be ridiculously fast. Now they do sell them with the Dodge Neon motor in them, the regular 2-liter 420A motor. Okay, and these are really popular amongst younger kids because they're cheap, they're fuel efficient, they look really cool. Okay, they give you that sense of ongoing fast. But once again, probably not a car you want to buy because somebody obviously is going to want to be driving it fast. However, on the other spectrum of that, if it does have the Dodge Neon motor in it, obviously that motor was in the Dodge Neon. The motor was in the Mitsubishi Eclipse. The motor was in a whole bunch of Chrysler products, Chrysler Sebring, there's just a whole lot of crazy parts for that particular motor was in. So, might I recommend buying a Dodge Neon of that era? Because now you have extra cars to buy parts out of, and most people don't really beat the shit out of the Dodge Neon, okay? I mean, some people do, so be cautious. If the Dodge Neon you pull up to has racing stripes on it, don't buy it. Okay? Plain and simple. But anything with racing stripes on it, someone puts stripes on the car, don't buy it, okay? My top two manufacturers for buying used, especially for you newbies out there, Honda and Toyota, Corolla and Civic. Those, I mean, you can't go wrong. There's tons of them out there. They're really cheap to maintain. They're great on gas, and they're extremely reliable. Those are the type of used cars you want to buy if you're 16. But keep in mind the cleanliness of the vehicle. Take a look at the interior. Is the interior clean? Is there a lot of trash in the interior? Take a look at the tires. If all the tires don't match, somebody probably only bought one tire at a time and didn't want to maintain it very well. If there's no oil sticker in the car, like on the window here telling you when the next oil change is, that means somebody probably was doing their own oil changes, or it hasn't gotten an oil change in a long time, so something to ask about. When was the last oil change? When was the last time the radiator fluid was changed? When was the last time the transmission was serviced? Or if you're smart and you're buying a manual transmission, how many miles are on the clutch, okay? Because when buying a used manual transmission, it's very possible that, whoa, man, today's episode is going great! Oh man, heat plus duct tape equals not sticky. You're all the way over here now. Clutches, okay? If somebody has a lot of miles on the clutch, it's all nasty right there too now. The clutch has never been changed. Clutches usually last around 100K or so. If you've never ever changed a clutch, car has 120K on it, you're probably looking at changing a clutch, which can be very expensive, so be cautious of that. A lot of times people get rid of their manual transmission cars right when it needs a new clutch because they don't know how to do it. You take it to a shop and they want to charge you a ton of money for it. So definitely something to be cautious of. Don't buy throwaway cars. Don't buy a used Ford Focus. Why? Because Ford Focus initially wasn't made to last very long. They wanted you to buy a new one. And don't buy, like the Chevy Aveos, okay? They're not good cars. They're not. They were made by Daewoo, okay? By Daewoo in Korea. So don't buy those. Look at, there's a lot of out there, and make sure when you buy it, it's not modified, it's decently clean, they have some type of maintenance records on it. If it's a car they've had for a long time, or something that they bought used, there should be maintenance records on it. And when you have your used car driving around, save all the receipts for anything that you do to the car. If you put, fuel system cleaner in, save a receipt for that. If you get the oil change, save the receipt for that. Save the used oil sticker. When you pull up to the thing, pull off your oil sticker, put it with that paperwork so you know, okay, this is when all the oil change happens. Look I have all the documentation. That's going to help you later on sell the car for a decent price, okay? And be prepared when buying a used car, okay, that doesn't have any kind of warranty on it, that you, at some point, may have to put, new parts on it, okay? That alternator may have lasted 150,000 miles, but you know what, it's a long time, okay? You're running out of life on it, so, duct tape's wearing out again, camera's about to fall off, and, I think we're about done here. So that's it for today. Leave me some comments in the comment section below. Let me know if there's any videos you want me to do, any cars you want me to talk about, any more tips I can give you. Have a good